Like people working in a wide range of industries, researchers are now having to follow social distancing protocols and adapt how we conduct both our working and more casual lives. Inspired by others, I'm going to provide you all with an insight into what life's like as an astrophysics PhD student working during the coronavirus lockdown.
So first things first, who on earth am I?
My name is Nathan Adams and I'm a third year PhD student at the University of Oxford. My research mostly revolves around studying galaxies, particularly using telescope surveys to look at how the most massive and luminous galaxies came to be and what they can teach us about the universe. Some of the more keen listeners and readers of popular science among you may have put together Oxford and galaxies and gone, "Ah, Professor Chris Lintott and Dr. Becky." And while you would be correct, I work in a different team to them. So while we do have coffee breaks and other meetings together, my work is following a different trail to the likes of the Galaxy Zoo projects and similar.
Well, hang on, you've
No,
just...
I like it. This is brilliant, but I like this.
Now it's 9 AM, Monday morning, and time for a science field week. But first things first, emails and admin. The projects I'm involved in include people from all over the world, from Australia to South Africa to Chile, and hence the people I work with span all time zones. So while it's 9 AM at the start of the working week for me, my Aussie colleagues are just packing up for the day, and it's not all uncommon that I find myself faced with email chains to catch up on right out of the bat. The university has also been sending many emails to update its staff and students about the ongoing pandemic, and so it's important for me to check through these in case there's anything in particular to me that comes up. Now that's out of the way with, it's time to connect to the computer cluster that's housed just outside of the city. I had some code running on it over the weekend, and it's time to see if it worked alright or if I've got some bugs to squash this morning. The majority of an astronomer's day-to-day work is programming and data analytics. For me, this is mostly done in the programming language Python, which is quite popular among astrophysicists today, and as a result has many online resources with which to make use of. However, due to the nature of working with many people from all over the world and of different ages, I end up using codes written in 4 different programming languages on a semi-frequent basis. So alongside Python, there is R, which is more geared towards fast statistics, IDL, which is a language used by some of the more senior members of the team, and Fortran 77. Yes, Fortran, the great-grandfather of programming languages, and yes, 77 as in 1977. Yes, I should appreciate it for being so influential in the field of scientific computing, but good god is it hard to follow sometimes. Ranting aside, the code did finish, and the output looks pretty good to me. Yay! Now the science can continue. I am due to give an update to my team later this afternoon about my progress, and now's the perfect time to remake some of my graphs with the most up-to-date data. I'll be doing this with a mixture of Python and a neat bit kit called Topcat. To most people, Topcat is the cartoon character. To me, it is tools for operations on catalogues and tables. Astronomers love their horrifically strained acronyms. Topcat is essentially Microsoft Excel if it was made by astronomers and given steroids. Some of my tables can be millions of rows and thousands of columns long, detailing things such as the various colours, distances, shapes, asymmetries, masses, radii and locations of galaxies, all contained within a patch of sky less than the size of the full moon. In terms of data, the files can be as big as a Blu-ray movie. Now if you try and open that up in Excel, boy are you going to have some troubles, and in all likelihood your computer will freeze. But Topcat handles this with no problems at all. I use Topcat as a tool to play around with data and to quickly make graphs. It is great for visualizing what I'm doing, experimenting plotting one thing against another, and finding interesting trends. It's also good for checking that some of my codes have been working properly. As useful as Topcat is, its graphs aren't the prettiest and it is limited to what it can do. And so once I see that the files look alright, I switch to Python to code up some prettier and more complex graphs. There are times where I have to wait a while for the computer to do some calculations for me or run a bit of code. Depending how long that takes, I take the time to quickly check the news, Twitter, or jam to a quick song to clear my head. If it will take a bit longer than a couple of minutes, I'll start reading a paper. Papers, or publications as some people call them, are the formal way that scientists convey results to each other. In order to keep up with the field of research, we need to be constantly reading up on what other people are doing in order to get a grasp of where our own research fits into the bigger picture and to also inspire further ideas. One of my colleagues has just written one and has asked me to check it over, so I take a break from the programming and have a first pass reading over it. It is getting closer to lunch and I've been sat in my chair for most of the day so far, As my afternoon is looking a bit more full with video calls, I decide now is going to be the best time to go for a walk. Oxford is pretty small but picturesque with many green spaces and gardens. My favourite spot to go for walks, however, is along the canals and waterways.
And so just behind my block of flats is the River Thames. If I walk down in that direction for about 15 minutes, I end up in Oxford city centre. And if I was to keep going down that way for a good, I don't know, couple 100 miles, I end up in the middle of London. And down this direction, where I'm going to be walking now, I'm going to end up in a place called Port Meadow, which is one of the largest green spaces in Oxford.
Walking along the river for a couple kilometres takes me up to Godstow Abbey. Built in the 1130s but closed down in 1539, it fell into ruin and has been preserved in this state since. It's now 12:30 and I'm running later than I thought and I'm getting hungry, so I should head back home. I had intended to walk around the Abbey and talk about it a bit, but I'll leave you with a picture of the information board to pause on if you're interested. Back home, I make myself a cup of tea, fix myself up some lunch, and check my emails again in case I missed something while I was out. It is now close to 1 PM and it's time to get back to it. I bounce between two different things here. First, I'm making a PowerPoint presentation for a meeting later today, in which I'll show off some of my recent results. And secondly, I will be looking at the draft of my second publication. Publications are an essential component to working in academia, and are used to formally put your work out to the wider world. My first publication was accepted by a journal this Christmas, which was very exciting. But there is no rest for the weary. My second project is now nearly complete, and I'm getting to the point where all that's left to do will be to just write it up.
We've had another very successful year. So, after all that hard work, it's time to start preparations for next Christmas.
But this write-up will have to wait, because 2 PM is fast approaching. At 2 PM on Mondays is when our department typically hosts a colloquium, a lecture given by an invited speaker about the work that they are currently doing. Now, because of the pandemic, we can't exactly go and cram 80 astrophysicists into a lecture theatre, and so these talks have been moved online. Today's talk is by Dr. Caroline Vilforth from the University of Bath, and she's going to present some work about the processes that fuel objects called AGN, again with more acronyms. AGN stands for Active Galactic Nuclei. Breaking the name down gives you a hint as to what it might be describing. Galactic shows that this is something related to a galaxy or of a galaxy scale. Nuclei shows that this is a central region of a galaxy. And active shows that this is some process which is causing noticeable change or energy output. AGN are widely thought to occur when a supermassive black hole in the center of a galaxy consumes new material. As material falls into the black hole, it forms an accretion disk which spins very fast. So fast that the internal friction from the gas heats the disk up to extreme temperatures, leading to bright X-ray and UV emission. Currently, we do not really know how the most powerful of these AGN become active and where the fuel for the gas comes from. Caroline is discussing the possibility that the brightest AGN reside in galaxies that have recently undergone a large-scale merging process, comparing the evidence for and against this hypothesis. This is important for my own research because the bright UV emission from AGN can be mistaken for bursts of star-forming activity. leading to mistakes in our measurements of the mass of these galaxies and how fast they form their stars. So I need to keep up with people who research AGN so that together we can disentangle all of the physics at play and provide a better description of how galaxies behave and evolve. Now that's one Zoom call over, and it's straight over to the next one. I quickly get up and do a bit of moving around and pop to the bathroom before my 3 PM meeting starts. This is now the time for the weekly meeting where our research group gets together. Our group focuses on studying galaxies from a multi-wavelength perspective, and so it is made up of people specialising in optical, infrared, millimeter, and radio frequencies of light. I work with the optical and infrared side of things. Our group meetings are split into 3 parts. In the first part, someone discusses a paper that they read in the past week which they feel was significant to the rest of the group. In the second part, someone provides an update on their particular research so the rest of the group is aware of what each other are doing. The final part is a casual chit-chat and catch-up. Not being in the office means we aren't bumping into each other in coffee rooms, lunch breaks and the like, and so it's good to have a little gossip and check up on how everyone is doing. This week, it's my turn to update everyone on the work that I've been doing. I've been looking at measuring something called the mass function of galaxies. The mass function can be thought of as asking this question. If I pick a random cube of space, what is the probability that it contains a galaxy and what mass does that galaxy have? The answer to this question can be described with the following graph. Here, the y-axis is a number density or a probability, and the x-axis is the mass. We can see here that there is more chance of finding smaller galaxies than the bigger, more massive ones. What I'm looking at is into how this plot changes over time. The population of galaxies is not the same now as it was 1 billion or 10 billion years ago. Because light has a fixed speed, the further the galaxy is, the further back in time we are observing it at. And so I can measure the mass function for galaxies grouped up into bins of similar distances, and this will show how the mass function changes over time. The result is not quite ready yet, and there are a few creases that need ironing out, but it's starting to look good. How fast the mass function changes can tell us more about how fast galaxies are formed, grow, and merge with each other. It is now 4 PM and the meeting is over. I feel like I've just had an exam. So I have a moment to just be a vegetable and process what was said. I have another call at 5 PM and now the internal debate starts. I have less than an hour. Can I really do that much in that time? The need to procrastinate is starting to overwhelm, and my phone is, well, doing this video. So I must persevere. For motivation, I put the music back on and I have a look at running some code on the computer cluster over tonight. Finally, 5 PM is reached. I open Zoom one last time and... what's this? A beer? On Mondays, we typically invite the visiting speaker out for a drink or dinner. Instead, this will have to make do. So a toast to everyone working on the front lines to keep us safe, and well wishes to all over the coming months. I hope that this has provided some insight and brief entertainment. Until next time.